Hi, everyone. I'm so lucky. I'm here actually with Brooke Sellas. She's the CEO and founder of B Square Media. She's a whiz. She knows everything about social media, but not only that, she knows how to use social media, right? Brooke and I, we've known each other at a work capacity for almost a year now. She's a speaker. She does everything with a smile. And I want you guys just to learn from the best. So thank you, Brooke. Thank you for being with us. And how are you doing?
Thank you so much for having me, Fabio. We know we love each other. We're great friends, but we started out just kind of working together and becoming friends. So I'm just excited to see all of the things that you're doing. And he's also a whiz, so don't let him fool you.
Right. So, Brooke, tell me a little bit. And the idea of this conversation is you're going to come in as this bonus round for the course, right? But you're tied to this last stage of the course, which I think is the most important one, which is how to bring your plan to life, right? So, how do you see the usage of social media, the entire ecosystem, uh, as a conduit, as a platform to allow people to grow their authority and create influence in the digital space?
Yeah. So, I mean, no matter what platform, time and attention, right? Can I grab your attention? And once I have your attention, do you keep wanting to spend time with me? And I think the way we get people's attention and we get their time is through our unique story, right? Because anybody could go out there and say anything about what's happening currently or steal, an amazing quote or meme or gif, but nobody can tell Fabio's unique story. Nobody can tell Brooke's unique story. So if we bring that human element of ourselves and storytelling to our content on social media channels, I think that's the important way to think of content. And obviously, you have to have the content to get the attention. And then the content and the story as it continues is what will keep people coming back time and time again.
This is a great explanation because a lot of times people come to me and they start asking me very specific, what should I do on Instagram? How do I use my Twitter account? And my answer is always like, I don't know, it all depends.
Right.
What's your story, right? But for people who have a story, let's just start imagining you have a story. What is the best way to identify your audience and then map to the right platform or to the right platform so you can create that ecosystem to tell meaningful stories?
I think every social media plan should start with discovery. Where is my audience? Where do the people who I'm trying to attract spend their time? Because as I don't have to tell you, there are different people on each of the different platforms. So, if I didn't know where to start, I may start with Facebook because I know that the most people use Facebook. If I were telling a very business to business or company, very company heavy story, I might go to LinkedIn because I know a professional network.
So finding the audience, the discovery, right? So tell me a little bit now, how do you work with your clients and what is the right way to editorialize a calendar?
Mm-hmm.
And because one of the things, I'm going to steal a quote from Mark Schaefer, right, from his book Known, which is, can anyone become known? Maybe, right? So it comes down to discipline, commitment, and are we committed to this? So I think that's what you do the best. You
Mm-hmm.
help people put a structure in place so you can create an editorial calendar. What is the process of creating an editorial calendar and activating that calendar?
Sure. So, I mean, when you think about what your unique story is, right, you've got this amazing story that you want to tell. You can't obviously tell that story in one sitting, right? So, you'd want to create what we call an editorial calendar or a publishing schedule, which is where you kind of break that whole story down into manageable chunks or snackable bites, a lot of people call them. And you start placing those out in different times, different days. You would also want to add in filler information. So, you may have your story from your point of view, But what's something that you can add in? Your story from the people who work with you, their point of view, from the people who influenced you in your life. You can then go through and add in other little elements. So there's constant refinement that happens to these processes and workflows. So as you're constantly refining, you're constantly filling up your calendar of information. So I would say start broad with your calendar and your story, and then start to, as you're breaking it down into manageable chunks, think about other ways you can tell your story, and not just you tell your story, but obviously how other people can help you tell your story.
Yeah, it's so good to hear that, because one of the big things that I've been teaching at the course is the idea of understanding your sphere of influence and not only your influence, right? So when you bring multiple perspectives by association, you end up building influence, right? One of the things you do, which I had no idea it exists, even though you said I was a whiz, I'm always learning when I talk to you, is the concept of a 30 by 30, right? Can you tell me a little bit? Because I think it's so fascinating, and that's like optimization in its best, right?
Yeah. So, we kind of end a lot of times when it comes to content at the creative process. We're like, oh my gosh, I've used all my creative juices. I came up with this amazing story. I put it out there. I'm done. But you're not done, right? Because you have to keep with the consistency. You said you have to be consistent and keep going. So one of the things that we created was what we call a 30 by 30. So this is when we take a new piece of content. So that new part of your story has gone out, whether it's on your blog or on Medium, or even if it's just some sort of a lead magnet or something that you're trying to attract people again to you on social media. You want to make sure that you are also focusing on content distribution, because we can't just share it one time and be done and think that we're going to attract this large following off of this one thing. So the 30 by 30 takes that piece of content and it creates 30 different ways to talk about it. So let's just pretend it's a blog post of Fabio's, right? So we may take a quote from Fabio out of that blog and lead into that post, right? Getting people to click on it through Facebook, Twitter, wherever, with a quote from you. We may take a statistic from that blog. We may take a little quick story from that blog, but 30 different ways that we can lead in, we call them leads, into the piece of content. And then we share those 30 leads or lead-ins 30 different times over 30 days. So when a piece of content goes out, we're making sure that people see it. We're focusing on the times that we know our audiences are available on Facebook, which differs from the times that our audience. So you need to focus on each of the platforms that you're using, because your audience is available on those platforms at different times. People use Facebook statistically a lot of the times during the middle of the week or during the workday. The big times for Facebook are actually during lunch. People take their lunch break and they pop on Facebook and see what their friends are doing. Twitter, a lot of times things happen later at night. Instagram, things happen on the weekends. So not only do you need to look at industry averages, but you need to look at your own content. Share it out. And then that 30 by 30, that's one of those elements. Make sure you're sharing at the right time.
What I love about this idea of the 30 by 30 is pretty much you optimizing a content that it's available, but then also you're unpacking the elements which makes a great story, right? And then you just targeting, retargeting. And when you say leads, just so we don't have, it's a headline, right? So you pretty much pull that element and you make that as the headline, not as a lead that we know in digital. I'm generating lead, right?
It's a journalism term. So it's LEDE, not LEAD. So lead, like sales, not that lead, but it's a journalism term. So it's LED, a lead, or like a little snippet headline that brings people in. Exactly.
So thank you, because that's important, because a lot of times, especially in digital, people are like, oh, so I'm going to use it to generate lead. No, it's just,
not that lead.
That will help you sell eventually, but not that. But
right.
So where I want to take us to, I have two more questions, is what are the tools that you use that you say, hey, if you're starting out, this is like the 1, 2, or 3 tools that you should have at your disposal?
When it comes to content, especially, I love Grammarly. Grammarly is a little plugin that you can pop on like Chrome or Safari, and it basically just helps you check your spelling and grammar to make sure that you're on point with what you're spelling. It's free. It's a free plugin. They have paid options, but I use the free one. Just like that second set of eyeballs. Even when you're like putting in a Facebook post,
Yeah.
Grammarly pops up and like shows
Wow.
you misspelled this or you need to change your grammar.
Yeah.
So that's cool. That's one. The other one that we use here at B Squared is Sprout Social. That is just a social media platform that allows us to bring in all of the data from each one of the platforms that we're using or using for a client and aggregate all of that data into reports there. If you don't have the funds to pay for Sprout, that's okay, because every native platform, so Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, they all have their own analytics. So you can use the native platform to really understand what's working and what's not working. But if you can get yourself some sort of dashboard, it'll pull it all into one place. It'll save you time, save you money kind of thing. Because for me, time saved is money saved.
Yeah, so true.
And then other tools that we use for content, for emails and leads, like the sales leads, LEADS, we use Nimble. It's a CRM, but it's built for social selling. So, one of the ways I keep in touch with people, even prospects who I'm trying to sell to, is through social media, connecting with them, saying, "Oh, Fabio, wow, I love this little snackable bite that you shared from this blog post. It's amazing." So we're connecting on social, and Nimble, because I have Fabio listed as someone who I want to be in business with, captures all of that information inside of the CRM and allows me to make notes on sales or add a deal with Fabio, that kind of thing. So I'd say those are the 3 tools that I use the most.
That's good. I'm gonna look that up. I'm gonna look Nimble up because I think it sounds good. So to wrap this up, to wrap this conversation up, I'd love to kind of then narrow down if there's 3 things you can give people to say, I'm starting at this. Because a lot of times people come to me like, of course it's easy. You worked at Nike, you go into Adidas. No, it's not. Like, I've been grinding for 12 months, 18 months now, but you have to start. So for those who are starting, what are it could be one thing or 3 things that you can tell them they can take away and say, okay, this is the truth of Brooke, and I'm going to live by this, and I'm going to put next to my desk, and every time I'm going to look at Brooke and say, thanks, Brooke, for the, and ask you, what would Brooke do?
There are 3 things that I can tell you that everybody without a doubt should do. Number 1 is document everything. So if you decide, I am going to go get on Twitter, and that's where I want to build my audience, make a plan for what you're going to do on Twitter to be consistent, and then document that plan. Because guess what? If you have success on Twitter and then you decide to go do the same thing on Instagram, you've already got a documented plan that you can go and emulate on Instagram. So first step is whatever you do, whatever your little process or your routine or your workflow is, make sure that you document it, because when it works, you want to be able to repeat that, right? The second thing I would say is to start small. So don't run out there and try to be on every platform. Don't say, I'm going to be on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, you'll kill yourself just trying to get it done. So pick one platform and start there, and do your research too. Make sure that you're picking a platform where your audience already is. Once you develop that plan and you start to see success on that platform, then go and add a second platform in.
Right.
And then once you see success there and you've got a documented plan, then go to the next platform. So start small and keep it manageable. And then I think the third thing is just to really keep an eye on what's happening with the data. Specifically when we're talking about content, the easiest thing you can do, let's say you are on Facebook Instagram, and LinkedIn. The best thing you can do every week is to go look at your top 3 performing posts on Facebook and your bottom 3 performing posts. Then do the same thing on Instagram. Top 3 performing posts, bottom 3. Same thing LinkedIn. Top 3, bottom 3. Every week, you'll be able to start to see trends and patterns emerging. And these trends and patterns are going to tell you, this is my best performing content. This is my worst performing content. And if you make those little micro changes over week, guess what's going to happen? You're going to start producing more and more best performing content on each one of those platforms.
I tell you, I think this last tip that you gave is like the most valuable one, because it is so true. And I think we've been through it with me a little bit, with you guys, because I'm like, oh my gosh, I put so much time in this content, and it is the worst content that has performed. And then this one thing that I was just on the fly decided to do, it just took off, right?
Yeah.
And I think that discipline is super, super important.
I know. We think we know, right? We think we know what people are going to connect with when we tell that story. And you're 9 times out of 10, you're constantly surprised about what ends up coming to the top. So I think, take the emotion out of it, which is really hard to do when it's your story, but there's no emotion in the data. The data will tell you, this is what's working, this is what isn't working. And then it helps you be unemotional about your story and just keep delivering on what works.
Yeah. So cool. All right, Brooke, so much time with you. And I always leave the end to you guys, right? What do you want to say and close this off? It's your show. It's the Brooke Show.
I think our tagline says everything that I believe about social media, which is think conversation, not campaign. The campaign is very important. At the end of the day, we want social media to help us with our business goals, whatever those are. But we will not be able to do that if we don't think conversation and have that human mindset. Even if I'm connecting with Fabio's company, I'm still connecting with a person on the other side. It's still Fabio talking to Brooke, and that's what we need to focus on.
Awesome. Think conversation, not campaign. Brooke, thank you so much. I really appreciate it, and I really hope everyone's going to love it. I know they will.
Thanks, guys. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome.